So good morning, students. We're going to go through the grade 9 PBL 2 entitled Dangerous Decibels. This is the STEM PBL, which is Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math PBL. The last PBL you worked on was the Humanities PBL, and you in the Humanities was about English and social studies mostly. But regardless if this is STEM or Humanities, you still is very important for you to read throughout the PBL. So you need to read the different parts to it, make sure you understand what that means, watching the videos, making sure you understand what they're talking about as you go through the PBL. So the PBL dates next Monday, May 4th, is when this PBL starts. And then it will go for 3 weeks until May 22nd. So that is just the initial information on the PBL. So let's talk about the challenge brief. So the challenge brief is kind of giving you some background information or asking you questions about the PBL. And so the question says, what happens when you hear unwanted or disturbing sounds? Do your ears hurt or do you get headaches? So from that, maybe you think, sounds, noise, maybe that's what we're talking about. And so in this PBL, you're going to work through the project. You'll think about everyday noise that you hear and how you can make listening to that noise safe. You'll develop a plan to eliminate or reduce the noise from the sounds of everyday activities, such as listening to your earbuds or such as cars driving by or things like that. As a result of this project, you'll create a public service announcement to ask people to take action against noise in the community. So here's your driving question. How will you eliminate sources of noise or lessen the noise they produce? And so your project requirements are that you identify what can be done to make listening safe, create an action plan to eliminate noise or lessen the amount of noise produced, and then lastly, create a PSA. So the other thing is in this PBL that's very, very important and very helpful is that you have these 3 supports. So this one right here is in Spanish. So what has happened is they've taken that challenge brief and now they've translated into Spanish. So you have that available to help you out. And there's the questions and what's required in the project. And so make sure that you use these resources. They're throughout the entire document. Here is a video or so in this one, it tells you, okay, so it's too much or too many. So that's what excessive may mean or think about. So you can click on it and it'll give you, and it'll
consider.
And so it may have said which person, and so it will define things for you to help you out. So use things like this. Use these helps. And then the last help is the text with vocabulary. And so in here, so for example, excessive was too much or too many. Consider is think about. So it gives you kind of some definitions of certain words that may be difficult to understand. And so that is the supports for the challenge brief. So make sure you use those supports. They're there for everybody. They're helpful in lots of ways. Excuse me. So as we continue on, so these are all based on the empowered learning model. And the empowered learning model is basically cyclical in nature in that we start with ignite in this PBL. Once we've ignited and we've decided to kind of understand what we're going to do, now how do we discover and connect that to the world around us? How is that now going to be applicable to us? And then finally, how can I now apply it to the world and things in the world and for the betterment of the world? While you're doing that, you're always reflecting and adapting. So after I find out what I'm supposed to do, then I'm going to reflect on it. So then I have to reflect and think, okay, how can I connect that to discover and connect it to the world? Okay, so now how do I maybe need to adapt what I've learned or what I initially thought? How do I need to adapt that to apply to the world? So that's what the empowered learning model is. We ignite, we discover and connect, and we apply. And it keeps going in that way. And the whole time we're doing that, we're reflecting and adapting. So we're thinking about what's going on and we're adapting or changing it to what we need to do. Here are the state standards. And so the rubric is based off of these standards. So, for example, math, create and use representation to organize, record, and communicate mathematical ideas. In science, you're looking at interactions amongst body systems, and you're also analyzing and looking at scientific explanations and creating critical thinking. And social emotional learning, the ability to set and work toward personal academic goals, and also responsible decision making. So deciding, how do I want to do this? How can I get this done? Our ELPs, so kind of helping us with academic language, helping us to visualize and build understanding through pictures, and then listening and responding verbally through electronic systems. We have technology, and then also we have career and technical education. So here we're utilizing technical knowledge and skills to understand what's going on, and then also professional standards and employability skills. So making PSAs, writing out documents, explaining yourself, that's part of that. And so the meet expectation is considered the state standard. So exceeds is above, going above that state standard. Meets is the state standard itself, and then approaches and initiating progress are below. So we want you to shoot for meets, but always, always shoot for exceeding expectation. And so in science, in the math, it's looking at a pictorial diagram and analyzing given information to come up with a solution. In science, it's about sound and hearing, accurately displaying that in your PSA. In CTE, it's about the professional standards and employability skills. So, when you do your PSA, maybe looking nice, using using good phrases and not playing around or playing with your hands and things like that. And then technology, leveraging technology to take on an active role in choosing and then working towards understanding the science. The project schedule. So the project schedule, this is just a simple, basically, here's the date, here's what's due for the calendar. But as we go through this, it's important to make sure that you understand that your ultimate due date is, or your ultimate thing due is the PSA. Okay, so you have to write the script, record your PSA, and upload the Schoology. So that's ultimately what you're trying to, your end result. All right, and these are the steps that we feel will help you get to that result. For gifted and talented students, there's extensions right here. And so you can click on these and work through these. And we're going to look at these different assignments as we go through the sections of the empowered learning. So the first section of our empowered learning model is Ignite. So kind of introduction to what we're doing. So let's look at this little video for a minute. So noise-inducing hearing loss.
How do I reduce the risk of a noise-induced hearing loss?
Okay, so as you're going through this video, okay, so they're telling you what you're doing. Reduce the risk of noise-induced hearing loss. So have you ever been told, hey, you're playing your music too loud, or maybe your parent or someone tells you, hey, I don't know how you can hear with that music so loud. Okay, so that's what they're talking about, noise-induced hearing loss. And so as we go through this video, think about this questions right here. So what steps can you take to avoid and prevent damaging your hearing? So as this video plays, you're going to think about that.
Hearing loss is a hearing loss caused by exposure to loud sounds.
Okay, and so I'll let you finish watching the rest of the video. And so that's the question. So what steps can you take to avoid and prevent damaging your hearing? How can you watch that video, and how can you come up with some steps? And so we want you to kind of think about it, brainstorm about it. This is that reflecting, adapting component. And then talk with somebody at your house, or talk with one of your friends. Text one of your friends and say, hey, what did you think of that, or what's your take on that, or what are some steps you can think of? Hey, and then we have the reading section. And so the reading section it ties into the video. And as you read through this section, think about that video that you watched. Think about the think about questions up here, and really read it for comprehensions, because it's important that you understand what you're reading. So this is divided up into multiple sections here. We have the ear and the sound. So we talk a little bit about how sound gets into your ear, and then noise induced hearing loss. So this is going to tie back into that video. They almost have the same exact title. And then safe listening. So what would be considered safe listening? So what would be important, or what do I need to do to prevent hearing loss? And once again, we have the supports here. So we have this reading in Spanish, and we have the vocabulary with audio. So it'll go over and then read stuff to you.
Canal.
Okay. And then we also have the text with video, which is where they've defined words throughout the paragraph. So environment, what does the environment mean? What is canal? What is eardrum? And so on and so forth. So make sure you use those. And so now let's look at the assignments due for the Ignite section. So for the Ignite section, one, you're going to do your check-in. So we've put two things here. One is, here is a schedule to kind of help you work throughout the PBL. So kind of what should you do throughout the day to kind of help you get your work done. And notice you have physical activity, academic time, creative time, quiet time, lunch, fresh air outside, academic time, physical activity, and then academic time again. Okay, so it kind of gives you some time to think and create, and maybe step outside for a breath of fresh air. And then also we want you to complete this document. So when you click on these documents, the first thing that's going to pop up is it's going to say make a copy. It's imperative that you make a copy. So you need to make a copy, so that way whatever you type is your stuff and not anybody else's stuff. Once you make a copy, here's the check-in for PBL2. So it's a little different than last time. And so what you'll do is you'll go in and you'll fill out the virtual check-in, and then you'll do your project plan. So just like you did last time, where you said, well, these are the tasks I'm going to do, and this is when I'm going to do them. You fill that in, and then there will be some questions down below. Okay, so make sure you answer those two questions also. And it's kind of, how was last PBL different from this PBL? And what you learned in PBL 1, how can you use that now in PBL 2? All right, and then the next assignment is going to be safe listening. So once again, when you click on it, it's going to ask to make a copy. You need to make a copy, and then that will allow you to upload it in the Schoology after you made that copy. And so as you go through here, you're going to identify 5 of everyday activities. So listening to your music, listening to a computer, listening to music in the car, or whatever. And so you identify the activity, how can you keep the volume down, and then how can you limit your time exposed? Okay, so let's say I'm going to the airport and I get to walk on the tarmac, which is where the planes all land and everything. I can only stay on that tarmac, excuse me, for a very short time before my ears will hurt. So how could I limit that time exposed there? How could I help with the jet engines going by my head? Okay, and if you've ever seen an airport, the people that work on the tarmacs, they have noise protecting headphones that they use, or noise canceling headphones that they use. And so you'll fill this in, you'll turn it into Schoology, and that's your 2 assignments for the Ignite section. Excuse me. All right, Discover and Connect. So Discover and Connect is now how are we going to take what we learned at Ignite? How are we now going to connect it to the world around us and everyday activities? And so we're going to think about decibel levels for everyday activities, and then how can you protect your ears from noise? And so as we watch this video, how loud is too loud? We're going to think about those.
Noise? How can being proud stop you hearing? I've never heard anything so silly.
Loud noise, not proud noise.
All right, and so you'll work through watching that video, thinking about the decibel levels for everyday activities and how you can protect your ears from noise. And then as you read, we're now going to be looking at what are decibels and what's the decibel scale or decibel meter. And so decibels is the way sound is measured. And here there's an example of the decibel scale, kind of everyday activities and how it would be not loud to loud based on our hearing and what does that mean. And then there's also links throughout the read section. So make sure on those links you click on them. So for example, this is the listen up link. And so when you click on it, if you scroll down, it's going to give you some information to look at and read. And then you also can kind of figure it out for yourself. So movie theater would be that loud. Or maybe a refrigerator is not super loud. Or maybe, you can click on the different things like that. Fireworks. And so that's just, you would play with that and kind of help you with understanding loudness or the loudness of different everyday items or activities. And then as you continue to wrap up this section, you're now going to look at an action plan. And so this is the action plan guide. Once again, you're going to make a copy of it. And here it comes, slowly but surely. And so for this PBL, you will create an action plan that describes how you would eliminate or reduce noise that comes from everyday sound. As you work through this project, you will learn about hearing loss and how it is affected by sound, how sound is measured, and how loud people should listen to sounds before hearing loss occurs. And so you will consider all these things when writing your action plan. The guide will help you think about what to include when writing your action plan. So as you go to write your action plan, think about noise source. Where is it coming from? And so you can click on this link, and then it gives you a how loud. And so now you have kind of a simulator. So if I pick music, let's say nightclub. So it tells me it's in the red range, which is dangerous over 30 minutes. Okay, or if I'm not in a nightclub, but now I'm going to be an ambulance. Okay, so yeah, and so it shows you different things. A dishwasher. So that's a safe sound. And so you can just play with it to look at different noises and how loud they are. Problem analysis. Why do you consider the sound noise? Okay. Because different people have different ideas of what's noise. So provide an explanation of why this sound contributes to noise in your community. So maybe to you, a dishwasher is not noise, but maybe to me, a dishwasher is noise. And so I would have to answer that question, why it's noise. Eliminate and reduce the noise. Can your noise be eliminated or reduced? Well, no, dishwasher is somewhat needed versus maybe fireworks are not needed, so I can eliminate the noise of fireworks because I just don't pop them. And then finally, strategic action. What ordinance would you develop to ensure noise is eliminated or reduced? So how could you, there's some things called noise ordinance, which is when they go, when law enforcement agencies or city officials make laws that say your noise can't be above this level or that level at certain times of day and night. And it's to make sure it's not a nuisance or an issue with with the community at large. You're also going to do problem analysis graph. And so here's an example of that. And so as you look here, for example, here's the noise sources. Here's how many decibels they are. And then here's kind of the graph. So looking at, okay, decibels versus noise source. And then also if this was a bar graph versus a line graph. Okay, and you can see that as you're going across, for the most part, it's increasing. So remember, once it gets above a certain level, that can be a problematic to our hearing. And so there's a graph, and then here's a template. Excuse me. And so what you can do is you can go in here and say, okay, I'm going to change whisper, and I'm going to put in, whisper is going to be, I'm going to say whisper, I'm going to put in dishwasher. When I change dishwasher, now the decibel is going to be, I think it was 35 or 40. And then notice it has this line right here, number of decibels above 85, because 85 is considered a safe level for our hearing. And so we want a negative number here in that it's below 85, and so then it's safe for our hearing. Okay, so go ahead and put that back. All right, and so that's the example problem analysis graph. So help carefully study your data and create an analysis graph. And so now let's look at what your assignments are for Discover and Connect. But first, don't forget your supports you have in there. So you have it in Spanish, you have it with words where you can click on it with the audio, and then you have it where it's the words and they have the definitions next to them. Okay, and so now let's look at our assignments for this part. So your action plan. So the action plan guide we've already looked at. And so here's your action plan. So you're going to go in here and you're going to fill out your action plan. And then you'll submit this on Schoology. So you identify what was your noise source, remember problem analysis, how would you eliminate that or reduce it, and then how could you strategically, what kind of ordinance or laws might you put in place to affect that noise or sound. Okay, and so you'll work on that action plan and then submit that on Schoology by May 12th. And then you also, so notice it says complete source of noise and problem analysis. So the first two columns by May 12th. Let me get back in it real fast. So noise source and problem analysis, these are going to be completed by May 12th. So the first two columns by May 12th. And then for the rest, for the end of that week, May the 15th, you'll complete the other two columns, the elimination and reduction of noise. And then also start thinking about that last column. So here you complete first two columns. We go back in the document one more time. So May 12th will be noise and problem analysis, and May 15th will be the elimination or reduction of noise. So these are the three things you're going to complete by the end of that week. So first off, noise source and problem analysis are due May 12th, these two columns. And then May 15th is elimination and reduction of noise. So by May 15th, all three of these should be completed. These first three columns should be completed. All right. And submitted into Schoology. And then our applied section. So now how are we going to take this and now apply it to a real world problem and then ultimately make your PSA? And so the video that we're going to look at is called Sound Choices, and it deals with dangers of sound and how to protect hearing. And with apply is how can you recognize too much noise and what sound choices can be made to protect ears. So when I click on this,
if it's too loud for too long, it can really harm your.
okay, and so you'll kind of answer those questions to yourself, talk to a friend, see what they think. And so how can you recognize too much noise, and then what sound choices can be made to protect the ear? Okay, looking at that video. And so now in the reading section, we talked about decibels and how they measure sound. And so now, what are some other factors that you need to think about? What does the governmental agency, Environmental Protection Agency, say about safe sound? And here you have a chart that kind of gives you here's the source, here's the decibels, and then how long that you can listen without protection. So notice if you're standing behind an airplane or a jet taking off, you can't listen at all without protection. It would be very detrimental to you. And then we have another one that shows kind of as you increase the decibel levels, here's how much time you can spend actually listening. All right. And then here's kind of going into your completing your action plan and building your PSA. So in Houston, there's a sound ordinance that states the sound cannot exceed 65 decibels during the day and 58 decibels at night in residential areas. However, with a permit, sound could be allowed up to 75 with until 10 p.m. on Sundays through Thursdays and until 11 on Fridays and Saturdays. So sometimes you'll hear people get called on noise complaints. And so the police will come out and say, hey, you got to turn your music down or turn your music off or whatever. It's because there's ordinances like this in place. And so consider these questions as you're working through this last part of your action plan and then building your PSA. Why is a louder noise level allowed during the day than at night? And why should permits be allowed for louder noise levels on Fridays and Saturdays? Okay, and so remember in your action plan, in your action plan, you've already completed or should have already completed noise source, problem analysis, and elimination and reduction of noise. Now you're going to complete the strategic action. And remember, strategic action would be how could how could law enforcement or city officials deal with those noise sources and to protect the safety of yourself, the public at large, and everybody that's concerned. Okay, and so that, and then lastly, the PSA. And so there will be a PSA guide here to kind of help you out with that. And then let me find it for you real fast. And so here's the PSA guide. And it says your final assignment of this unit is to record and submit a 30 to 60-second PSA to ask people to take action against noise in the community. Select one noise source from your action plan as your focus. So this guide will help you develop your ideas for your PSA and can be used as a checklist once you have written your script to ensure you have included important points in your announcement. So what's the hook? How grab the attention of the people you're trying to talk to? Important points. Have at least 3 points you want to include to support your message. Be sure to include facts and our statistics. And then how can you call to action? States what people should do to help reduce or eliminate noise in their community. So here's a space for you to do your script, and this will be a copy that you'll make also so that you can write your script down there. And then ultimately you'll create the video. Okay, and then you'll finish by creating your video, your PSA, by using whatever you want, and then upload it into Schoology. And so then the reflect and adapt piece. So now, why is it important for workers in noisy environments to wear hearing protection at all times? So this is just an extension piece that they've, because remember, as you go through, you're working on Ignite, Discover, Connect, and well, that was loud. This Ignite, Discovery, Connect, and Apply. Now this is going to be a part where you can watch this if you need additional help or additional thoughts on how to work through your project. And so that's the video. Read through. Once again, it talks about sound in the world and how some things are done by companies to help with Hearing loss at work. You have your supports built in. Those are very important. Your Spanish support, your vocabulary with audio, and then your text with vocabulary. And then the reflection. Okay, so it's very important to always reflect on how things are going. And so what went well, what challenges do you have, and then what would you do to improve? And so here we want you to reflect on learning, just kind of asking yourself this question: how will you adapt for the next PBL? Because you have one more PBL after this that will start on the last week of May, or the next to last week of May. And then also spend some time working in Khan Academy on some math and science. If you need help with anything, there's always helps right here. Even though it says special education, it's there for everybody. So you can click on these different things to get help. There's more help for ESL students. So students that speak another language, you can click on that and get some more help. And then if you're a GT student, there's some questions to look at for depth and complexity. Okay, to kind of think about based on the stuff that was in the PBL, to think about and kind of answer, talk amongst your friends with. So that is the 9th grade PBL2, Dangerous Decibels. If you have any questions, please see your teacher and ask them questions. And good luck and have fun. Thank you.